Hi guys, in this video you'll be deciding which album is better, and we're going to be looking at two ANTHRAX albums, Spreading of the Disease and State of Euphoria, and we're going to start right now. ANTHRAX represents a sort of road not taken in the thrash metal genre, as they are considered the least influential of the founding fathers of the genre that made playing faster than one thought possible a staple greatness. While Slayer was obsessed with evil and aggression, Megadeth with writing songs too complex to be easily ripped off, and Metallica with wowing the masses with their slick production work, ANTHRAX selected to stick the closest to the new wave of British heavy metal side of thrash, and consequently came off as a bit more conservative. One of the reasons why so many disowned the 80s era of ANTHRAX is because it doesn't conform to the stereotypical thrash sound of ugly as hell vocals, overbearing pentatonic shred solos that cannot be recalled after hearing Megadeth is an exception in this department as well, and cramming 9 or 10 riffs into a song with long-lost interludes and instrumental breaks. Charlie Benatti can go an hour straight at the double bass pedal with the best of them, but is equally adept at playing a nice 4x4 rock beat, and makes the quasi-punk snare sound like few others can. Dance bit solos are well conceived and sing as well as shred. Kirk Hammett could easily definitely learn a thing or two from this approach. Minus in the eyes of most from the 80s era is Joe Belladonna, whose voice is more indicative of early power metal vocalists like John Arch and Harry Coughlin than the ugly barks of Tom Araya or James Hetfield. Say what you want about Belladonna's quasi-glam 80s image, the guy sings his arse off and rivals many of the 80s new age of British heavy metal singers. I challenge Araya or any of the so-called true thrash vocalists to hit the high note during the chorus of Medusa and have it sound remotely as somber and neurotic as it sounds on the album. Spreading the Disease is one of the best representations I've heard of the eclectic musical direction that the mid-80s exhibited. You got some pretty solid speed thrash in the classic opener AIR, which is still a favourite amongst fans, as well as the post-apocalyptic, popularly charged Aftershock, a song that is as fast and as intricate as anything Metallica did during their better days, quote unquote. The Enemy is a solid upper mid-tempo melodic rocker that has a slight Manowar tinge to it. Split's lead work on this one, as well as the crazy-ass intro into Stand and Fall after the mid-sounding stuff, are particularly exceptional. The new age of British heavy metal inspired homage to Clint Eastwood's Lone Justice is a nice lyrical change of pace from the lyrically charged stuff that dominates much of this release. Armed and Dangerous has beautifully serene acoustic intro followed by a fast swinging riff fest that mostly listens like something except or Judas Priest might have come up with around the same time. Likewise, Madhouse has some strong Iron Maiden influences at play, although it's a little bit faster than the bulk of their work. Medusa gets my pick for the most memorable song on here as well as the best vocal performance out of Belladonna. I defy anyone to listen to this song once then tell me that they haven't got a catchy as hell main riff stuck in their head. The album's closer, Gung Ho, was a co-write with Neil Turbin that is a better produced version of what all this speed, no compromise sound heard on Fistful of Metal. That funny as hell ending with the military theme in the lead guitar cracks me up every single time. In closing, despite being released in a year where such amazing releases such as Slayer's Hell Awaits, Maiden's Power Slave, Dio's Sacred Heart, and Accept's Metal Heart, I'd argue that this is one of the best albums of 1985. It embodies all the best elements of power, thrash, and new wave of British heavy metal in one compact 44-minute package. I also point to that Among the Living as a better thrash release, and from a purely thrash point of the view that his opinion is correct. But there is more to life than thrash alone, and Spreading the Disease has it all. The thing is, we're going to look at State of Euphoria. Being different is not something that should be done for its own sake, but when it comes to the conventional wisdom regarding the Belladonna years of ANTHRAX, it is something that more people ought to start doing. The fact that people who laud the fairly standard Among the Living to no end can call this bland or merely going through the motions is really perplexing. Almost as perplexing as any self-respecting fan of this band's pre-90s material like in Stomp 442. It might be understandable to want more development out of this album, as it does listen a little similar to the previous one, but given all the improvements and expansion of the sound going on here, calling it a weak version of its predecessor just doesn't fit what I hear. Although we start off with a cello playing the intro riff to this album's opening song, rather than a reverb of Steve's group of electric guitars tracks, Be All End All proves to be a much more epic and interesting answer to the Among the Living question. The main riff is more memorable. Belladonna's vocals don't sound quite as forced, and things just seem to move a lot quicker despite the longer time duration. In fact, throughout the whole album, Belladonna and Spit seem to have upped the ante in terms of quality, while Scott Ian's riff ideas just come off as much as more polished and powerful. The album's biggest strength is that despite the fact that it resembles that last one wanted a little in throwing out some similar ideas in different songs, the ideas are better and the mix of instrumentals just went together perfectly. Benate's kit is still fairly heavy on the high end, but there is just more enough of a punch to the bass, a snare drum on here to properly unite with the bass and give the album the bottom end that many otherwise great thrash albums seem to come short on. It's particularly noticeable on the straight up thrashing with monsters like Outside Our Mind, Schism and Misery Loves Company. It should probably also be mentioned that this album, unlike the last one, doesn't force you to listen to a mediocre obligatory ballad and sticks to what the band does best, blazing forward at full speed. The album does start to lag a little during the second half, but as the songs start to lose the epic feel and sound a bit similar to each other, but nothing on here really qualifies as filler. Sure, now it's dark and Who Cares Wins have noticeable similarities in structure and feel, but particularly during the verses and intros, the band does a better job of throwing in some contrasting sections and doesn't limit the eruptions. The only song on here that really seems to truly fall a little short of the mark is the last one, Finale, which reverts back to the 2 or 3 good ideas and run with them for 5 or 6 minutes. The 5 or 6 minutes trap that the last album fell into. The intro riff kicks some major league ass in the way that force feeding Big Macs into a vegan would, but it gets itself into a really formulaic groove for the most of the duration and doesn't really cook as well as the others. Make Me Laugh, one of the top 5 songs put out by the band and better than anything on Among the Living, although perhaps not as witty a polemic against the abomination of televangelism as Sabbath's TV crimes. The lyrics are still really hilarious. The song actually shapes itself like a conversation between one of those bubble-pumping profiteers and someone who's privy to their joke of a profession, switching from a having a quasi-comical verse that parodized the church hymn to a jeering shout of a chorus over the pair of humming guitars. There's also that signature rapid stop-start riff that Metallica basically milked for 1/3 of their hit single from A Justice for All, otherwise known as One, but put forth in a more tasteful manner that knows the value of brevity. While this isn't quite the melodic fit of the sheer speed metal genius that Spreading the Disease was, or the classic angry epic that persists of time, that this is definitely the essential listening for any fan of thrash metal. The only thing that is radio oriented about this album is the Trust cover and the fact that Belladonna's voice isn't as menacing as what you'd hear on a Morbid Saint or Possessed album, but the latter applies to any album this band has ever put out. Many minds may push this to the bottom of these albums, but such minds are best when changed.